Nobody ever asked me, "Are you a beekeeper?" And yet I am.
Wow.
I don't know why people don't ask that.
Especially now that you own Apples and Honey Press, you should be a
I
beekeeper.
know exactly. Yeah.
This is The Book of Life, a podcast about Jewish kidlit. I'm Heidi Rabinowitz. Behrman House has been publishing Jewish educational materials and children's books for over 100 years, and up until now has been a family-run business. But David Behrman and his wife Vicki Weber are about to enter their well-deserved retirement, and they are passing the business out of the family into the capable hands of their friend and colleague Derek Stordahl. I spoke to all three of them about the history and the future of Behrman House and its children's imprint, Apples and Honey Press. This is part 2 in my 2-part New Faces series. Part 1 introduces you to Lila Sales, the new editorial director at Car-Ben Publishing. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen. You will find show notes, a transcript, and bonus content at bookoflifepodcast.substack.com. And if you'd like to hear Derek Stordahl's Share Your Shelf segment, you can get access by upgrading to a paid subscription to support the podcast. Thanks. David, Vicki, and Derek, welcome to the Book of Life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
That's terrific.
David and Vicki, you are the outgoing publishers at Behrman House, and Derek, you are incoming. Let's start by talking about the history, because I know that Behrman House is over 100 years old now. So what are some of the milestones, and how has Behrman House evolved over the last century?
Behrman House is 105 years old. It started in 1921 as a bookstore in Lower Manhattan. The milestones of the firm are, I think, 4. It was a bookstore with a little bit of publishing up until World War II. Shortly after that time, as synagogue religious schools started to be formed in the suburbs, this firm began publishing. The firm was formed by my grandfather. After the war, my father took it over and he started publishing for religious schools, and we became the leading educational publisher in North America. There was a period of time when we did a lot of online and digital stuff starting, I think, in the mid 90s. So that would be the third phase. And then we launched Apples and Honey Press to do children's trade publishing. We now have, I think, 150, Vicki, correct me, 150 titles in print.
165 this
100,
year.
and I lost count. Okay, 165 titles, number of award winners. I guess the last phase, at least for now, is Derek taking over the firm and bringing it into the next thing that it will be, whatever that is.
What changes did you purposely make, and what changes just occurred organically?
I don't think a commercial firm can change completely on its own. It must respond to the marketplace and it must respond to readers' needs and, in our case, schools' needs. But the intentional decisions that were made, I think, were first to go into the education business. It was a very intentional decision of my father's. And then the second critical intentional decision was the decision Vicki and I made to start Apples and Honey Press, which gave us a new imprint and a new way into a very different set of readers and children in North America. So those are the two critical decisions, but neither one could have been made without there being a place for those things that we decided to do to be received and read and hopefully appreciated.
That makes sense. David Behrman, has Behrman House always been a part of your life? Did you always plan to be part of the family business?
No. Vicki will tell you that I swore, we've known each other since college, that I swore I would never go into the family business. My father used to say he had no choice. He came back as a private in the army from serving in Europe in World War II and went straight into the family business. I practiced law for a while in New York, I think about 5 years, and I was a consultant at McKinsey for another 5 years. So I joined the firm at the age of, I think, 34.
Once you did join, were you glad to be there, or were you sort of forced into it?
My father was very good about not pressuring me to come into the business. I love this business. I love this business because it has a practical and an aesthetic component. one needs to make the trains run on time and the place has to work and the books have to get printed, and I that appeals to my managerial instinct. But ultimately we have to make beautiful books, meaningful books. If we do that, we will be successful. The place has been around for a while and I think has proven itself. It's about character education and it's about meaning, personal meaning, and it's about children's growth and it's about color and design and engagement of children. So I'm very pleased to have both those pieces in my life.
That's a wonderful combination. I love how you described it. Vicky, was working with Behrman House part of the deal when you got together with David?
No, not at all. I can't say working at Behrman House was ever on my bingo card until it actually happened. Like David, this is not a first career for me. My training is in economics and financial analysis.
Hmm.
I had about a 12 or so year career on Wall Street as a financial analyst, and then was lucky enough to take some time off and be at home with our kids. And it was during that time that an executive editor at Behrman House called me up one day and said, I have this project that I'm working on and I need some help, and maybe you can help me. And so I did a few freelance projects for Behrman House, largely in the Introduction to Judaism section. And then a few years later, we had an employee who went out very suddenly on a medical leave. And he was the person in charge of making sure we had reprinted all the books we would need for the coming school year. And it wasn't clear whether those orders had been placed. So David asked me to come in on a temporary basis and kind of figure that out. And it was a great thing to be doing on a part-time basis when your kids are in school and the school is down the street. And that was the beginning for me.
I used to work for Vicky on the college newspaper. She was the editor in chief and I was the assignments editor.
Oh, wow. So you've taken turns being each other's boss, kind of?
That's a longer conversation.
Yeah.
So after like 90 years in business, Behrman House created Apples and Honey Press. So after so much time as a purely educational publisher, why at that time did you feel that you needed to create this new imprint?
We did do some children's publishing in the 60s. And in fact, when Derek was thinking about buying Behrman House, he found these books, Jeremy and Judy, and he said, look at these. And they're like the old golden books with a Jewish angle. And I think he might be thinking about bringing them back. So we always dabbled, but you can't dabble anymore because you need a marketing operation and you need to have a regular list every season. So we did it because we wanted to reach children in a different way. And we reach them in the religious school and we reach a lot of children that way, but it's in a very specific context. And there are children we don't reach who are in day schools or who aren't in religious school. And it's a very different environment. And there's less educational content, but there's more engagement, there's more storytelling, and it's just a different way to exercise the creative juices of the firm.
You've produced some wonderful books, some of my favorites.
Oh, well, thank you. Which one is your favorite?
Oh, I can't pick just one. Um, but I'll tell you that there are two books by Leslie Kimmelman about Eve and Adam.
Oh, yes.
Just gorgeous. And the flipped script kind of the way that those characters are envisioned are just amazing.
I think Leslie is a genius. What I love about those books is they're subversive just a little bit. They're not Adam and Eve, they're Eve and Adam.
Right.
There's a line in the first book that says Eve is obviously very curious and strong, and Adam is good to look at. So there's a feminist piece. And then in the second book, it's a brilliant psychological exploration of separation. We all are afraid to go out in the world. We're afraid to go out in kindergarten. We're afraid to leave the garden. And she turns the story of the snake, which is sometimes punitive, into a story about natural consequences and God being a guide and a coach. And you have to go out in the world and take your chances and have faith that God is with you, but also that you can make your way in the world. I think she's a genius.
Yeah, I love that interpretation.
You have to help us come up with a third one. Actually, the us is Derek. Derek would love to hear from you with the third in the series of Eve and Adam.
All right, I'll think about that.
Good.
So recently, Apples and Honey has published several books that are not explicitly Jewish, like Aren't You a Strange Bird and The Tightrope Wanderer, or The Big Bad Wolf and the Masquerade Ball. They are related to Jewish concepts and they include explanations in the back matter, but they aren't as overtly Jewish as one might expect from a Jewish publishing house like yours. So, what is your thought process in selecting those stories for publication?
I think that many stories are universal. Religious traditions share many common themes. If you think about Tightrope Wanderer, there is the Talmudic notion of the narrow bridge, and there is the admonition that we are not obliged to complete the task, but that we are not allowed to cease in the attempt. And that is explicitly mentioned in the text several times. So there are Jewish values embedded in a story that is secular. And I think that it's important for children to understand that they have these Jewish lives and they have these lives that aren't explicitly Jewish, but that contain Jewish themes. And Jewish themes can inform those, what we call the secular lives. And so these two worlds aren't so separate as we sometimes present them. That allows them to have a more holistic view of their lives and of what Judaism can do for them.
And if I could add to that, I was asked to be a judge recently at an essay contest sponsored by a local federation. And what their youth director had done with these seventh and eighth graders was to ask them to think about what they really like to do in their lives, and then to write an essay about how that thing was Jewish. And there were essays about playing the violin, playing soccer, all of the things that kids that age do. And what they were trying to do was to figure out what values are exemplified in those activities, the sportsmanship or the dedication or the practice or whatever it was. And these kids were so excited about that notion because so often a lot of Jewish literature is trying to say this is what Judaism is, and so this is what you should think about it. And this was having these kids think about their lives and then try to see how these values are exemplified in a lot of other ways, how they actually live them in their day-to-day lives. And I think a lot of these stories also do that.
Derek, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'm just sitting here listening, thinking, wow, these guys are really smart. How can I be as smart as they are? No, I mean, I think that that observation about the integration between the secular and the religious life really makes a lot of sense. And creating a division artificially isn't necessarily the best thing for a reader or for a parent who's reading that book to a child. So looking at that holistic approach is a way to expand the reach for Apples and Honey Press.
Derek, what is your background and how did you come to join Behrman House?
Well, my background is a long story of publishing from my first career being in a kind of general literary publisher that published adult and children's books to working at HarperCollins San Francisco, which was a spiritual and new age publisher, on through reference and education and children's books and adult books. And most recently at Holiday House in Peachtree, the children's book publishers, where we published award-winning titles, the Caldecott, the Sidney Taylor Award, and of course had the backlist classic Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblin.
Oh, that is a classic.
Eric Kimmel, yeah. So, because publishing is a world of relationships, at some point, David and Vicky and I all connected through some mutual friends. That was probably 5 years ago, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
longer. And so we had lunch every few months and talked about the world and what was happening in publishing and how we each might do better in what we were publishing and how we were reaching audiences. So, we've been friends for a while, and it's one of those things of serendipity where we were having lunch and having a conversation about what's next. And somehow it ended up being, well, maybe you should be thinking about Behrman House. And so I did.
When we needed to know how the big boys do things, we would have lunch with Derek and ask him, how do you handle this problem? And he would tell us, because Behrman House is a small place. So it was an instructive relationship.
I've always been an admirer of the dedication and care that David and Vicky have put into the publishing at Behrman House and Apples and Honey Press.
What aspect of the company is most exciting for you?
Well, I really love the combination of things. I mean, the fact that there is a really dedicated relationship at Behrman House with Jewish educators, I think is fantastic and is something that we'll continue to support and build on. And the growth in Apples and Honey Press and the opportunity to reach more Jewish kids and reach more kids in general is also fun. And so for me, it kind of ties into a couple of different areas. I worked in educational publishing in different ways, academic publishing, as well as kid and trade publishing in different categories. So one of the things I've always loved about publishing is that you're learning something every day. It's never the same, makes it challenging and fun and exciting.
David and Vicky, what are you proudest of accomplishing in your time at Behrman House and Apples and Honey?
Well, actually, I'm going to give some kudos to my partner and husband. I don't think Behrman House would still be around if it wasn't for him. The way publishing has changed, the way Jewish education has changed, the way the Jewish communal group has been changing over the last 20 years under different leadership. I think Behrman House would have, like many other Jewish publishers, dwindled away. And it's been his vision and dedication and persistence. He's the most persistent person I've ever known in my life. Has really allowed it to have renewed vigor. I guess we made the decision in 2016 that we would do things dramatically differently. Until that time, Behrman House had been much more vertically integrated. We did our own fulfillment, we did our own warehousing, we did our own shipping, we did our own packing of boxes. And we made the decision that we should double down on our core skills, which were in editorial and content producing, and let go of those things that were no longer going to be the engine of success. That has allowed the company to really continue to blossom in a very, very different economic environment. We are much leaner. We have lower fixed costs. We don't have a warehouse anymore, and that's made a big difference. But I think it's been his vision over the years that has really allowed this to be something that we can pass on to Derek that's very, very strong and has some exciting opportunities looking ahead.
Thank you. I would divide what I'm proud of into three pieces. First of all, that we have maintained our educational business when almost every other Jewish educational publisher has fallen by the wayside, because we're very, very focused on the educator and the child. That is the mantra of this place. And so to be really the last one standing was tough to do. The second thing is that we just have a terrific staff. This is a place of very committed people who do really good work. And that makes everything a little bit more fun and a whole lot easier. And then the third thing is that we've been able with Apples and Honey to position it as a place that can move into the future. So Vicky and I can depart with the place healthy and with a robust future in the hands of somebody who we think is going to do really good things with it. And so we can feel like we're not just dropping the ball or closing the door or anything like that. And so that's a really nice feeling.
Is there anything you wish you could have a do-over or that the stars had aligned differently?
I have one, actually. Behrman House was really early to digital education, and I would suggest that we were probably too early. We had an extraordinarily robust digital system that was based on CDs for computers. It was used all over the world, actually. And then very, very quickly, computers changed. Laptops were coming out without CD-ROM drives, and we were trying to find a way to get online. However, the schools and synagogues were way behind in terms of their ability to handle materials that needed Wi-Fi connections and other kinds of infrastructure. So, from a moment of great promise, we actually weren't able to keep that part of it going very well. We still have digital materials, we still have ways for people to use materials online, but it was not possible to continue to develop in that arena. And I think being as much as 10 years too early meant that it was not sustainable.
So getting a head start was not actually a good thing in this case.
In this case, possibly not.
We spent an embarrassing amount of money on our digital effort that was not used well in the schools just because it wasn't time. And we could have spent it on making great books. Vicky's absolutely right.
We weren't in a position to be able to teach teachers how to use the internet.
Right.
I would add one other thing about risk taking. We could have done Apples and Honey Press 5 years earlier. We just were a little bit too cautious. And so we weren't cautious enough on digital, and we were too cautious on children's trade. But you live and learn.
Well, considering all of the successes and challenges we've just talked about, David and Vicky, what advice do you want to give Derek as he gets started?
Oh, I've given him so much advice already. I don't know.
Go with God.
You know, some publishing firms are run editorially and some are run financially. There's no right answer. This place has been run editorially since forever.
Despite my best efforts.
Right, right. So, and sometimes to its detriment. I was not focused enough on the financial end. And I think Derek is bringing a little bit more financial focus, which is very important. And I'd say make sure to get that balance right. It's a Goldilocks moment, right? You don't want it too hot and you don't want it too cold. You want it just right. And what's just right? That's where the art is.
Well, that sounds like very good advice, actually.
The first thing my father said to me when I started was, it's all about taste. How do you know when a manuscript is good? How do you know when the art is right? And there's a lot of taste there, and getting it right is hard and it's judgment based. Just have to be very intentional and thoughtful.
Derek, do you have a message for the librarians and teachers and authors and readers who have longstanding relationships with Behrman House and Apples and Honey at this time of transition? What would you like to say to everyone?
I'm just grateful for their support of Behrman House over the years and Apples and Honey Press. I think they'll see continuity here along with some evolution. We'll see continued support of great books for Jewish kid readers, books that librarians can share with their readers, teachers can use, and we'll see continued commitment to Jewish creators, authors, artists, as well as some new things. We're going to experiment a little bit. I also want to reinforce something David said, which is there is a great team here and people that really care about the quality of the books, how they are received by children, how they're received by those children's adults. And so I think the trust that Jewish educators, librarians, teachers, kids, parents have put into Behrman House and Apples and Honey Press is something that they can continue to feel comfortable with.
All right, excellent. It's Tikkun Olam time. So, any or all of you, what action would you like to call listeners to take to help heal the world?
That one I think falls to me. And given our role in Jewish education over many years, and especially congregational education, and to some extent day school education, in a world in which a lot of philanthropic organizations spend their time and their money chasing the latest new experiment, I would really like to see your listeners go out and support their local day school and their local congregational school because these educators are so dedicated, so talented, so energetic. And I don't think a lot of them are getting the kind of support and attention that they deserve. And so I would really love to see people get out and provide volunteer and financial support as well as enthusiasm. A lot of Jewish educational institutions and schools have gotten pasted by the media and pasted by different kinds of studies that in some cases aren't, I think, that well put together. And this is an opportunity to really provide support in the places where our children are being educated every single day and week.
All right, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Where can listeners learn more about Behrman House and Apples and Honey?
Well, I am very delighted to say that Behrman House and Apples and Honey Press are different than many other publishers of all sizes and shapes because we have our own e-commerce site and a very robust website. So you can go to behrmanhouse.com. We have our online catalog there that you can flip through. There is also applesandhoneypress.com.
And are you on social media as well?
We're on Facebook for Behrman House, and we're on Instagram for Apples and Honey Press and also Behrman House. And you can also on our website sign up for our weekly newsletter.
All right, excellent. Is there an interview question you never get asked that you would like to answer?
Well, I'll say, nobody ever asked me, "Are you a beekeeper?"
Wow.
And yet I am. I don't know why people don't ask that.
Especially now that you own Apples and Honey Press, you should be a beekeeper.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so perfect.
It is.
That is so perfect to have a beekeeper running Apples and Honey Press. Tell us about beekeeping. How did you get into that?
Oh gosh, well, that's a whole other, that's probably a different podcast, but I've been a beekeeper for 10 or 12 years, just in our backyard and around our neighborhood. I have had hives at different times, and, it's a great way to focus and forget about just about everything except not getting stung. And, it's a great way to be in tune with the seasons, to do something good for the world and for gardeners next door, and to have delicious honeys. It's a lot of fun.
So now you can have Apples and Honey branded honey.
I could. That's a great idea.
Maybe it's a gift with purchase idea.
Yeah, or at our pop-up shop, we can give some honey gifts.
Derek, I never asked you, how did you start? How do you think of, oh, I should keep bees? I mean, it's not an everyday conversation thing.
When I was a kid growing up in Montana, would be out hiking through the fields, fishing or whatever, and you'd see these big commercial beehives set up in fields that were there for pollination, and always was kind of curious about that. And then many years after that, we were walking around Berkeley, California, and there was a house that had beehives in the front yard. And, Berkeley is a little bit, it's Berkeley, and it's not so surprising that you'd see something like that. I was just surprised there weren't chickens with the bees, but I thought, well, if you can do it in Berkeley, you can do it in New Jersey. And my wife got me a gift, a starter set, and took lessons. And then, the moment of truth came to order the bees, paid for the bees, and started going.
You take a class, or you have to be an apprentice, or how did you learn how to beekeep?
I took classes from the local beekeeping association, read a lot of books about beekeeping and bee biology and all that kind of stuff. And then you'd go out in the field with another beekeeper. And I think that was probably the only moment I really got doubtful about it, was when they opened the hive and there were bees everywhere and the adrenaline kind of kicked in. I was like, oh my gosh. But nobody got stung, nobody died. It was all fine.
On one of our early meetings with Derek, he was actually waiting for a box of bees. And he had to get home to make sure that he got the box of bees through the postal service.
Yeah.
Wow. So now I'm just picturing the mailman holding a box that's buzzing.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like 3 pounds of bees. It's in a mesh box. Yeah. Basically, it's like, wow, there's a lot of bees in that box.
Do the bees mind being in a box and traveling through the mail? Does it seem to upset them?
Not so much. They go with food and with the queen, and so they're fairly docile about the whole thing. And then they're ready to find a home by the time they get to you. And so into the hive they go, and all being well, they thrive there.
That is amazing. It's not an answer I expected, but I love it.
Well, see, nobody asks, so there you go.
Thank you for bringing that up. Is there anything else that any of you would like to talk about that I haven't thought to ask you?
I would just say that I'm sure Derek and our colleagues here would just really like to hear from people about what the firm should be publishing and how things are going, and are the books working in schools. Kibitzing is really important to us. It really is.
I love that. Well, we're going to take a look at your personal bookshelves and see what books you'll be sharing from your own shelf. So anybody who wants to hear about that can become a paid listener on Substack to get access to the Share Your Shelf segments. But in the meantime, David and Vicky, mazel tov on your retirement, and Derek, mazel tov on your new job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining me on the Book of Life.
My name is Ed Rosenthal. I'm a rabbi and founder of Repair the Sea Tikkun Olam. I'll be joining you soon on the Book of Life podcast, along with Rochelle Burke, author of Diving Deep on Rosh Hashanah. I'd like to dedicate my part of our episode to my wife, Mindy, who gave me 2 wonderful children to whom I read many Jewish children's books while they were growing up, and to my children who have given me Jewish grandchildren who love reading Jewish children's books.
I'm Rochelle Burke, author of Diving Deep on Rosh Hashanah, Reverse Tashlich for a Better World. I dedicate my part of this episode first and foremost to Rabbi Ed Rosenthal, without whom there would be no Tikkun Hayam and certainly no book. I also dedicate it to the thousands of individuals around the world who participate in annual beach and waterway cleanups, doing their part to repair the sea, and in turn, repair the world.
Say hi to Heidi at 561-206-2473 or bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for free to bookoflifepodcast.substack.com to get show notes, transcripts, Jewish Kidlit news, and calls to action right in your inbox. If you'd like to receive the bonus Share Your Shelf segments, you can upgrade to a paid subscription. The Book of Life is also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our 20-year back catalog is online at bookoflifepodcast.com. Want to read the books featured on the show? Buy them through bookshop.org/shop/bookoflife to support the podcast and independent bookstores at the same time. The Book of Life is sponsored by the Association of Jewish Libraries, the leading authority on Judaic librarianship. Learn more at jewishlibraries.org. Additional support comes from Congregation B'nai Israel of Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org. AJL also sponsors our sister podcast, Nice Jewish Books, a show about Jewish fiction for adults. Stick around past these credits and you might hear a promo for the latest episode of Nice Jewish Books. Our theme music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band. Thanks for listening, and happy reading!